Good afternoon. I'm Lori Linsky, Monmouth County First Assistant Prosecutor, and I'm here today on behalf of Prosecutor Gramiccioni. I have a few brief comments to make, and then I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Stern, who would like to say a few words, and any questions that you have about the trial itself, our trial team APs will be able to handle. On behalf of our entire front office at the Monmouth County Prosecutor's Office, we could not be more proud about today's result and the work of our trial team APs, Assistant Prosecutor Megan Doyle and Assistant Prosecutor Christopher Decker. Their tireless pursuit of justice in this case was really awe-inspiring to us, and we are incredibly proud of them and their hard work. They've worked long and hard on this case, and it's been a really long road. We also want to thank our entire investigative team who've worked tirelessly since December of 2016 to seek justice for Sarah and her family. In addition to our own detectives and staff, we owe special thanks to the Neptune City and Neptune Township Police Departments, Belmar Police Department, the Monmouth County Sheriff's Office, New Jersey State Police, Belmar Water Rescue Team, United States Coast Guard, and the area network of shore water emergency response. We also want to thank the jurors for their 8 weeks of service in a very, very long case. This civic duty does not come without personal sacrifice, and we thank them for their obligation and fulfilling their obligation to serve. Most importantly, we extend our continued condolences to the entire Stern family. Although the trial is over, we understand that for the Stern family, this never really ends. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Stern, who has a few remarks to make.
I just wanted to thank the press for their courtesy and their long-standing, coming out and being here. The most important thing is to get justice for Sarah. She was a great kid and never should have ended like this. Thank everybody. Thank you. Yeah.
If you have any questions for our trial team APs, Megan Doyle and Chris Decker are here, and you can feel free to ask.
Megan.
Sure.
What stood out to you about this trial as you look back on all of these weeks as far as experience, difficulty, anything like that?
So I think the thing that stood out for me the most is the courage that some of our witnesses had, specifically Anthony Curry. I think that's unique for, speaking for both Chris and I, to have somebody who really doesn't have a dog in the fight to cooperate with us for nothing. The other part was the Stern family. They sat here every day. And as all of you know, some days there was nothing that went on. And they were always supportive, always thanking us. And that's, I think, too, something that's unique. We don't always get that type of support.
How was it during the jury deliberations? I mean, was it nerve-wracking? Was it waiting?
It always is. God.
Waiting for a jury to come back is always not an easy thing for prosecutors, especially when you're asking a group of 14 people, or ultimately 12 people, to convict someone, especially so young, of a crime like murder. It's definitely not an easy thing to do. You could obviously see that from the jury's reaction, I think, on the way out. But we appreciate all the time, the effort they put into this. And I think ultimately at the end of the day, justice was served for Mr. Stern and the Stern family, who's been here day in and day out, been so patient with everything, with us, with our detectives. So it's never an easy thing, but you just have to understand that we have to be patient because it's not an easy thing to do.
Chris, Megan, question for both of you guys. We, over the course of the last 6-7 weeks, we saw you both at times get extremely passionate in the courtroom, and obviously you've been working on this case for a very long time and are invested. How emotional was it for you to not only watch the Stern family, but to be involved in this case and to listen to the sometimes gruesome and bone-chilling things over again be repeated in court?
We both talked about this a lot. We've watched that consensual recording probably no less than 100 times. Watching it in court in the context of everything else that was going on, and watching the jury react to it, watching and listening to the people in the back start to react. Sorry. Channel 4's out.
Sorry, Brian. Anthony.
I'll put 4 low.
But I think that was very hard for both of us because it was the first time we looked at it almost like you guys did, seeing it and appreciating how heinous it was, and then watching him not react to it was, I think, difficult for both of us.
What did you see in that? What did you see in that confession, in that videotape,
Well,
in Liam McAtee?
I don't like to speculate about who a person ultimately is. I think everyone saw the evidence in this case. You've all watched the video. I think you could draw those conclusions for yourself. But ultimately, as a prosecutor, I think what Megan and I saw was corroboration. We saw that everything that he said was corroborated by, the words of the co-defendant, the physical evidence, the videotape surveillance. So that's really the way we had to look at it as objectively as possible. Try to separate ourselves from the emotion of it as much as we could.
Right. And watching it in court, I think it was hard because he laughed through most of it, and there was no emotion from him, where there's 14 people sitting in that jury box who know nothing about this case except what they're learning over these last 8 weeks, and they're having emotional reactions to it. I think that was, as prosecutors, it does make you angry, that there's no remorse, there's nothing, and he was so dismissive of what he did.
And that brings up, can I ask this question? You guys have probably done a lot of these kind of murder cases. When you rank this guy compared to others, would you say he's the most heinous you've ever seen, or what would you think?
I think he's the most...
I honestly think that's a question for other people to determine. Yeah. We both handle cases with people that have done really bad things. I mean, I think what we had in this case speaks for itself, and to try to rank this person amongst others, I mean, every murder case we handle is terrible and it's horrible in its own way.
Megan and Chris, for the last 2 1/3 years, this case has thrust the eyes of not only us here in New Jersey, on our hometowns, where we grew up, where we live, where we enjoy the summers of the Jersey Shore, but also the entire country and even international. Behind you, there's a man who has been a pillar of strength throughout this entire ordeal. What do you want to say to the way Mr. Michael Stern and the Stern family represented themselves when all of our eyes were on them in a most difficult time of their lives?
I think he showed how much he represented his daughter, because this wasn't about him. It was about Sarah, and it was about getting justice for Sarah. So I don't want to speak for him, but I think that gave him the strength to be able to sit in court and listen to what he said about his daughter and how he treated her. And I think that was what the focus was for him, at least for my conversations and my observations, that he made this about his daughter and not about himself, which as a parent is very admirable. I don't know if I would have been able to do it.
Mr. Stern, can we ask you how you felt putting your faith in the state and in these two prosecutors and this team, and how it kind of felt to, relinquish control in the fact that this is such a personal issue for you, and to kind of, hope that they, are as skilled as they come off to be and do the right thing?
Very stressful. The entire ordeal, very stressful. I'm just looking forward to getting some sleep.
How do you feel about justice being done today?
Justice was served.
Mr. Stern, you had a tough day when the video was first played in court. Could you tell us what you were thinking as you watched that confession that day? I saw you walk out, and you were obviously very visibly shaken.
Well, I just thought that my daughter, my only child, it was sickening. It's gut-wrenching, it's hurtful, and to think that somebody that pretended to be her friend actually did that to her, and without any remorse, and it's painful, it's sad, and it's beyond anything that I've ever experienced before in my life, and it's just horrible, very horrible.
How much of this will you be able to put behind you now?
Not much. Not much. It's hard.
Have you thought about sentencing yet?
No, that's a couple months away, so we'll have more to say about that.
Beyond your trusting the prosecutors and the judicial system here, what else has gotten you through these last few years without your daughter, and knowing that the person who was ultimately held responsible for it might walk away?
Well, see all these people behind me? all these people from the prosecutor's office to the Neptune City Police, Belmar, Neptune, the Sheriff's Department, and the entire prosecutor's office. They were all in on this, and they helped me get through it.
Mr. Stern, would you mind saying maybe a few more words about what your daughter was like and what you think she would be thinking or feeling right now, looking down on what happened?
Sarah's up in heaven. She's an angel, and she was just a beautiful person. She didn't have a mean bone in her body, and she was a great artist, and hopefully in the future we'll be able to see some of her artwork and get it on display somewhere.
What do you think about the fact that the person who did this was somebody that had actually been in your presence and you knew, or your daughter was very familiar?
Makes me sick, absolutely sick, that somebody would do something like that, and you heard the testimony that it was all a setup. He was never Sarah's friend, and apparently, his evil thoughts and his motives are just beyond anything, any realm of anything that I could imagine being so evil.
Mr. Stern, how do you feel about Liam's family? This is, again, a family that you knew, that you raised children within a close proximity to. How did you feel about his family throughout this trial and during the years preceding this trial?
Well, we know this has gone on for 2 years now. The evidence was in 2 years ago. They all knew about it. And I don't understand what the fight was. He should have just pled guilty in the beginning, and it would have been over with 2 years ago.
Mr. Stern, what do you want to tell Anthony Curry, who went in that car, helping out the prosecution, recording that video, and probably providing the strongest piece of evidence to put your daughter's killer away, hopefully, for life?
Well, on behalf of our family to the Curry family, I really appreciate what they did, and at some point, it took a lot of courage for him to come forward. I know it was hard for him, and I've talked to him about that, and it was a tough thing for him to come forward, but he knew he had to do it.
Thank you all very
Thanks,
much.
everybody. That's
We're
it.
going to wrap it up now, but we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
24th. May 24th, 9 a.m.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Liam and Preston, right?
What?
Liam and Preston.
Yes. Or just get it Drop it. Sorry, guys. I gotta get inside and get my jacket.
Hey, fuck.